Let's just hope I don't actually have any other surprise audio issues going about with this. And so we are live, definitely. Uh, I'm always hesitant with how it actually kicks off on the show. So hello, welcome to another episode of Loose Canon. It's actually been a while. We are now on the season of the Splicer. So this is the episode, the one about the season of the Splicer. We're gonna talk about first impressions and some of our favorite lore items. We're gonna try to stay away from the books, but I have a document of just like 8 links, just so in case there was overlap. One of my items is an entry from a book, but it's because it ties into a series of items as well. And
Love it.
yeah, there's some amazing lore this season. I'm so excited to talk about it. I'm like I was double checking everything, making sure I went over every item before the show,
Yeah.
and I was reading a certain item that we'll get to, and I read it, and I was like, "Well, that's something," and I was like, "I can figure out what that is," and I looked it up, and I was like, "Well, now it doesn't make any sense." Like I thought um it would have a more concrete answer, and I was like looking at it, and I was like, "Wait a second, this is a repeating sequence." And I was like, a repeating sequence of these letters kind of stood out to me. And I was like, why did these letters look familiar? And I looked something else up, and sure enough, I figured it out. So,
I can't wait for this.
do you want to hold off on that and do your item of the week?
Yeah, we'll do my lore card.
Yeah, lore card.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, it's on screen.
Nice. Okay, so this week's lore card at Destiny Armory Defined was an ornament for Xenophage, which is the big machine gun that everybody loves. It has a tiny Omar inside, but he's reincarnated as a bug,
Do
and
you
he
have
loves
this
it.
ornament? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you have this ornament?
No, I don't, and I can't wait for somebody to have it because I want to know if somebody reloads it, if Omar has a cowboy hat.
I was just gonna say that. Because I was like, wait a second. Last time we had the dawning one, and it gave him like a Santa hat, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And now we got like the clearly Tex Mechanica.
The
The
logo's
logo
right there
there
on the
on the
yeah.
drum. It's got the
Uh-huh.
Tex Mechanica text. It's got the last word arrow and diamond. The filigree. It's very very
All right.
Tex. Oh my god! Can
Yeah,
you imagine if he's wearing a Stetson? I'd be so happy.
or at least a hat of some sort.
He's holding a huckleberry inside. He's holding the last word inside. The bug has a
that
miniature last
that
word.
would be awesome. That would be awesome. A little Omar with the last word.
Oh
He has a
man.
little golden gun. You know,
Yes.
uh so uh before I start, I just want to say thematically, this one was really neat because the season of the Splicer is all about hackers and hacking and internet and just all kinds of cool wires and the grid and being plugged in. And this ornament, the name is about the opposite.
Hmm.
So I thought it was pretty cool. And so if you kind of applied some of this logic towards Omar and the story around him, and if you don't know, there's a little bug inside that basically represents Omar, one of the
Right over here.
Crota fire team members that died, uh, when they all went down in the Hellmouth and tried to take out Crota or whatnot. So he's been reincarnated as a little bug, and he lives inside Xenophage now, and he screams maniacally whenever you kill Hive because he loves it. And so the homesteader, as far as the ornament goes, the name, what does that mean? So homesteader is a person living off the land and providing shelter, power, and food for themselves, living off the grid lifestyle. Anyone who wants to free themselves from the dependency of public works, infrastructure, and or technology slash internet. An example would be like small rural or city farms. So the homesteading is someone who settles lawfully on a government land with the intent to acquire a title to it. Homesteaders vary in values and reasons for homesteading and can be a diverse bunch. In a nutshell, some are retired and invest in the infrastructure needed to fully support themselves on the land, and others might be just someone who's starting with nothing, setting up a scrappy stronghold to provide for themselves in the face of like economic hardships. So there are a lot of different reasons for being a homesteader, and some of the reasons might just be just you want to get away from it all and kind of live a more basic lifestyle and do all the things you need to do for yourself. And then some actually legitimately are put in that position or live in that position, and that's where they originate from. So it's kind of this current terminology used to refer to a lifestyle that's uh, like a greater self sufficiency. It's the way to make agriculture, home preservation, and food for yourself. It gives you a way to make your own clothing, a way to make your own garden, lifestyle. You think about all the new technology we have. We can make our own energy from solar, wind, all that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of people out there right now that are technically homesteaders, and they started, living these rural type lives to provide for themselves. But it's kind of become a blanket term, and it's no longer just that specific definition. It's kind of a way to say anybody who just unplugs or becomes a homesteader or just kind of wants to get away from the dependency of uh, the city life. And so the term off the grid kind of originated from this as well, and it refers to not being connected to like an electrical grid or other utilities slash water, gas, sewer, all the things you can think of that you take for granted in your daily life at your home or your house or your apartment or whatever. Uh, and so this off the grid living allows for buildings and people to be self sufficient and isolated, kind of a way to unplug from the grid. And so I just thought that was really funny because if you think about homesteader, the ornament, and you think about Tex Mechanica and how they kind of embody this, I guess, this fantasy life of being on the range or on the open plains and providing for yourself and being a homesteader or stronghold, type of uh, governing body. And then you got Omar inside this gun who's kind of away from everything, providing for himself. So I just thought that was unique. But yeah, can you somebody get this ornament and show me if Omar has a cowboy hat on or not?
Is it available this week? Because I mean, I might just go buy it now if it is.
It is, but I don't have xenophage. I never went and chased it.
What?
Mhm.
That's like one of the most important guns, man. Like,
I
I don't
know.
know how you don't have that gun.
I just at the time when Shadowkeep came out, I was so busy.
Yeah, I get you.
And
It
then,
it can
everything
be
else was just
challenging
like,
to get things like that done.
yeah. I would probably just go buy it if I could
Hmm.
from the little kiosk. It's not in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, it won't be in there until Shadowkeep gets taken out.
Yeah.
How far in the quest are you?
And in that quest,
Yeah, in the Xenophage quest.
I don't even
Like,
think
not
I
at all.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nothing.
I
Probably a
mean, you
day
can
or
knock
two.
that thing out in a day. I don't think it's actually too challenging. I don't think anything's time gated.
Well, I probably should blame the Black Armory machine gun. What was it called?
I know it, but I can't remember what it was called because basically I got Xenophage and didn't give a crap about it.
Yeah, see, because I got that machine gun. I was like, what do I need any other machine gun for? I got this one, and I'm not gonna take up my exotic slot for. I'm one of the
That's some
dummies.
D1 thinking right there.
Yeah, no.
An exotic in my heavy slot. I don't need that. I'll pass on this
Yeah.
Gallarhorn week 2.
God, dude, had I had, you know what? Had I had enough materials to get that Galahorn on week 2, life would have been so different in D1.
I got it pretty early. I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones who, like, when I actually started going for it, it didn't take too long for me to get it. But when I got it, uh I was the people I was with were unhappy that I got it.
I'm so
There was
unlucky.
one
Yeah.
person who was like, "Of course, the least deserving player gets Gallarhorn."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"What the fuck, dude?"
Dude, that same scenario happened to me. So the first time I went through the VOG raid, I
Hmm.
got my first exotic ever, which was Hardlight.
Oh, nice.
And they were like, "Oh, cool, dude, you got an exotic." Everybody that I was with on the fire team. And then the second time I went through was which was literally the next week,
Hmm.
I got Galahorn. And everybody that I was raiding with had done the raid like probably 30 times at that point and were just mad as hell. And it was, of course it was the final drop, but Hardlight was from the first chest and then Galahorn was from the final drop. And that was early for D1. So I had that gun, I had that machine or that rocket launcher pretty early, but I
Yeah,
didn't. It took so long to level it up too.
yeah.
Oh my god! So I
That's like the catch with it. It's like you get it and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to." Oh, it sucks.
so I couldn't really use it because it was like this big ball and chain
Yep.
on everything I was trying to do. So when I was trying to do my bounties, when I was trying to level up, I had this big Galahorn just, oh my god, making everything impossible.
It's like I don't even think it even had like intrinsic tracking, right? Like even that was something
Like
that you had to
nothing, yeah.
unlock. It was just here's this weak rocket launcher, but it
Yeah.
gets better.
Right, right, right. And then when the Queen's bounties came out, we were like, yes, we finally can get some ascendant. What was it? Energy and ascendant something.
Was it Ascendant? It was shards and energy, and then Crota's End had a different set, but still shards and energy. But
Yeah,
either way.
yeah, yeah.
So I put a link in the Discord, and I want to talk about that really quick before we get into the next big thing. So open that up, if you please. So I'm gonna put that on screen. This art station link was sent to me by Baxter this morning. Baxter, for anyone listening or watching, is the third host of the show here. He's just very busy with life, and so this image is called King and Queen, and it's a statue explorations done for the world of D2. And as you can see, there's more male looking and more female looking, or maybe the reverse. No, they got the
Yeah.
hips. That'd be the female on the right. Statues, and they look very similar to the veiled statues that we see in the pyramids, and they kind of like fill a similar role. And then there's actually a third one, which even more so looks like the veiled statues, and it has like this cool like chain hand thing, not actually connected to the body here. And so
Yeah.
all three images look really cool. And I just wanted to ask, oh, first I wanted to say what I asked Baxter if he could share some thoughts on it since he sent it to me. And then I wanted to ask you what you thought of them. But he said that they're interesting and they definitely look like they're related to the statues from the pyramid. And the fact that they're put on ArtStation probably means that they were rejected concepts. But just because it was a rejected concept doesn't mean we can't see some form of it in the future.
Right.
So maybe
So
we will see a male veiled statue, as the one we've seen so far has all been female.
so just analyzing the third one, which the with the separated floating hands,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, the texture on the cape is very reminiscent of the armor and the darkness
Yeah,
pyramid ships. Yeah.
yeah, it looks
So
like a ruinous effigy, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of got that whole thing going on for it. And then so like the one thing that stands out that's definitely different from the veiled statues is these large Elizabethan collars that are wrapped around their heads.
Hmm.
So it's but yeah, that would be very like stately or king and queen like
Hmm.
esque from like, you know, European
Because I mean, it's only a matter of time before we eventually see a new enemy race, right? Like we have to see
Right.
something new, with the Cabal effectively being on our side and the Elixir effectively being on our side. There's the Hive and there's the Vex and there's the Taken, and I mean, you can't have a major Cabal expansion anymore because they're on our side now, unless they want to deviate from being teamed up with us. But that doesn't seem likely because the next threat is
Yeah.
Hive. So I
Well,
mean,
okay, so also at the base of the statue, do
mhm.
you remember the concept art?
The
What's his
first
name?
set base.
Yeah, so the foot basing on each one, because they look like chess pieces. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna say that because
yeah, I agree.
obviously the grid laid out below is like, checkerboard
Hmm.
looking. But so the base foot plate looking thing reminds me of the weird shapes on that concept art that we saw while back, where it's pretty much, it's got a little bit of green and it's got a lot of this black in it, but it looks like it would be
I know
on
what
the
you mean.
deck of a pyramid ship, and in the
Yeah.
background you can see the silhouette of another pyramid ship kind of
Hmm.
separating, and then the center statue right there on the side, there's those huge, uh, they look like helmets or faces that are on the ominous orb that's in the middle, and so
Hmm.
these base plates on these statues are reminiscent of that shape.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's a very popular one. I wish I had it. I wish I had it handy so I could put it up. That concept art actually has the current veiled statues on that pyramid ship, and above them is a sphere that is identical to the Traveler's spherical design with the lines going through it, because the Traveler has like
Yeah,
circles going through it and stuff. But so
yeah.
I thought that when he sent me this ArtStation link, I thought it was very cool, very intriguing, and I really hope we see something like that soon. You know, the sooner the better. The more unique enemies that we have to fight that make us change how we play, the better. That's always a good thing to have.
That would be pretty awesome. So these statues are pretty cool. Like the female figures, John face jets out more than the males.
Hmm.
The males was more of like a skull underneath, and then females chin and mouth kind of jut out more, almost canine.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah, yeah. And then the staff that they're holding very much looks like a piece of that uh, center monolith thingy on the ship in that concept art I'm trying to tell you about. So yeah, holy crap! Could you imagine if these were like rendered in the game?
Hmm. Or I mean, it
Oh,
doesn't even need to be exactly this. It's just
just
something
some similar,
conceptually
yeah,
this, where like I know it kind of screwed themselves because they already have the hive filling the king, queen, knight uh hierarchy, where this is very clearly king, queen, and knight. The third option on the screen now are king and queen. Um so it is a little unfortunate there, but I would love to see like something that has like where the king and the queen aren't the big bosses. The king and the queen are just like strong, not the top absolute top tier Oryx Savathun, but they're just like barons in the fallen, like they're rare, but you still see them.
right, yeah. I mean, well, and even if they were just like placeholders for some enemy race later to come, it would be cool to just see them somewhere in the game.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
I couldn't imagine. Anyway, that would be cool.
Okay. So with that out of the way, let's get into the thing that I was so excited for when I found this morning. So, as I said, I was going through, and I'm just going to actually put it on the screen again. Really take advantage of this. I was going through the items and I found the item, the decide, and I was just, reading everything. And so this says encoded private ping via HDN proxy router. Ikora, I thought you would want to see this. It presents as binary in our systems, but something is splicing hashes in. I pulled it from the tower's Nexus ISO feed. ISO feed. I don't know. It's all over future war cult networks and elsewhere. So this is the binary, and it's got these hashes in it. And basically, what I did was I just took all the hashes out. Like I did a find replace, and I just replaced them with spaces. And
Yeah.
Honor goes on to say, my guess is the lettering indicates some kind of audible tone code pattern, which is a clue, but I haven't listened to it. So when you plug that into a binary converter, you get little c, big E, big F, big D, big D, big D, big E, big A. And that repeats like several times. And I was
Okay.
like, that's so like, is this like hexadecimal? Like what is this actually looking at? And then I thought, well, what is Savathun's song? And Savathun's song is
Oh,
C
get
E
out of
F
here.
D B D E A. C
God
E F
dang it.
D B D E A. So Savathun's song has actually hacked into the Future War Cult networks. So that means all their information is now like subject to be entirely wrong, which is
Yeah.
huge right now because Lakshmi is like going hard against Mithrax. And she's like, I've seen the future and the fallen are against us
Right.
and they're going to cause the downfall of the city and blah 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 blah. And it's like everything that she is basing her information off of is corrupted by Savathun's song.
That's how it is. What the F? Yo, dude.
Can you believe that?
Um,
I was losing my shit when I saw that. I just I didn't know how to react. I was just so amazed. And so I actually have I have another one handy here, and I'll throw that on screen because it's just a lot of text. The
yeah.
stochastic variable. So the first weapon was the decide, which is a FWC weapon. This is
Yeah.
stochastic variable. It's another FWC weapon, and so this is a series of predictions. And so they progress, and it's like Elixni quarter. It's always to do with the Elixni. They're doing things. The towers and ruins, and then the third one's an interesting one. It stands out a bit more. The last city, radioactive dust, dark growths in the ruins, which kind of sounds like the lichen that we've
Yep.
seen on
Yep.
Presage.
In
And
Illinois.
lastly, mutated ghosts in that
No.
third prediction. She calls out mutated ghosts and she says, "Where is the traveler? Mutated ghosts." And it's like that's exciting just right off the bat. If that has any potential of being true. And then, it keeps moving down. Elixni Quarter, The Endless Night, A Crackling Portal, Mithrax firing widely, The Cult flees, Ikora triumphant, the Batsa Ruin, Batsa District, The Crackling Portal, Fallen Flee, FWC banners, Zavala is gone, Mithrax on trial, Lakshmi 2 looks over the crowd. And so it starts Lakshmi 2 faction head, EXO politician, and it ends Lakshmi 2 head of state, EXO prophet, savior. Savathun is saying, I know what you want. You can get what you want, but you have to go against the fallen to get it. You have to protect the city from the fallen. You have to prevent this from happening, and you will become the prophet, the head of state, the savior of the city.
So she's
She's being
trying
played.
to appeal and manipulate to her. Wow.
Lakshmi is being played. I I could not believe it when I saw it. I was just like I lost my mind. I was
It's funny you bring up that shotgun. It's the deicide
Oh, is it?
because yeah, uh, it was one of the early
Oh, yes it
weapons
is.
I
Mhm.
had defined a long time ago. And back then, um, all I had was, just the basic definition, which is it's the killer of a god, the act of killing a divine being or a symbolic substitute of such being. It's the active rejection of a promoted being as a god.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like this idea that somebody says, "Okay, well, this is a god," and then you say no, and then you basically go against. It's almost iconoclastic if you think
Mhm.
about um, like how Ikora fought the whole idea of the traveler being the savior when she was a little bitty young Ikora, and then she kind of grew up in the Crucible and became badass Ikora that she is now.
Mhm.
Well, it's this idea that you're kind of rejecting what everyone is believing to be the savior and God of everything. So it's almost fitting if what you're saying is true, that this shotgun be a point to Lakshmi, because it is very much a flavor text of her own in that gun, which is believe in war and nothing else, Lakshmi
Mhm.
too. And then you think about Lakshmi too and her inner circle and how they were obsessed with, the nature of time, fate, and existence of
Mhm.
alternate timeline. Could this be because, like, that's the whole thing about Future War Cult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They they
That
they understand that war is inevitable and they're gonna fight
Yes,
it, like all that nonsense. And
yes.
it's like, yeah, but the second she sees that she can become the head of state, she's like, yeah, war's inevitable, but I'm gonna become the head of state. like what
While I'm
the hell,
here,
Lakshmi?
while I'm here, I might take your offer and just go ahead, and because nobody's gonna listen to me, I'm gonna take, yeah, because there's a dialogue in game too where she's basically like,
hmm
just now, where she says, "You know what? I'm sick and tired of you not listening to me. Now's not the time. I was whispering for so long. Now not gonna. Now
Yeah,
everyone's gonna hear me." That's what she
yeah,
says.
yeah. She says,
That's what she just said.
people laughed at me when I whispered about the Red War, and
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done whispering now. She's like planning to just go into the Batsa ruins and start killing Fallen just because
Mm,
she thinks it will save the day. She's being played. It's dangerous.
that is freaky. So maybe okay, let's back up a second. What could potentially be the purpose of Savathun manipulating that particular scenario? And the only thing I can think of would be Savathun recognizes the Fallen as another entity that has once been aligned with the Traveler and used the light. And if
hmm
they combine forces with the Guardians, that would be a threat that she can't afford to happen. So she's got to stop the Fallen from getting back to their good graces with the Traveler and us,
See, I think it's
right?
I think it's I think it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. So,
Okay.
Savathun is basically the reason that Zivu actually went to Torabottle, right?
It's true.
Because like she was the one that like I think she actually called Zivu and she was like, "Hey Zivu, look at Umunarath
She
performing
like
this
got on her
ritual for
phone
you."
and was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, see you."
Yeah, she called her up and she's like, "Hey Zivu, can you come check out Torabottle? It's a pretty neat place." And so then Zivu Arath went to Torabottle and destroyed the place, and it was because of that action, that domino, that Keitel learned not to be like all the other Cabal. She's like, if I continue doing what everyone else does, the Cabal will just go extinct. So she changed
Right.
her strategy. She's like, I need to team up with the Guardians. I need to use the Guardians to fight Zivu Arath. But all the while, it's really Savathun who's doing that. And so now we have this like shaky alliance with Keitel, and now also we have a shaky alliance with the Elixni. So we have the Cabal and we have the Elixni, and we're all like kind of like close together, and it feels like that's her goal. She's like, I'm gonna get them all together, and I'm just gonna strike once and take them all out in one move because if if she enters like a war of attrition with the Guardians and the Elixni and the Cabal and they're
Yeah, it's
they're
too
attacking
much.
her from
Yeah,
three angles, she's gonna lose, right? But if
right.
they're single force, she thinks she has a better chance. And
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, is if she thinks that somehow we can, you know, gadget, freaking Traveler, or,
mhm.
Captain Planet, let's combine our powers and then
And it actually
put it
makes me
together.
wonder, like, if the Crown of Sorrow wasn't even supposed to be a trap. Like, what if it was supposed to be Callus figured it out and Callus used it with the anomaly and it kind
Scheming
of
it
like
all along.
because the presage missions did, in my opinion, a great deal to build like a relationship with Keitel. Whereas Season of the Chosen, there was no relationship building with Keitel. It was like we are gonna fight Keitel, we're gonna take her out, and then she's like, I guess we'll be teammates. It's fine. But it
Well,
was
because
in.
the like, because okay, so oh, so Callus and the okay, because there was an there was a whole story that was happening underneath the surface of the entirety of the Chosen, the season of the Chosen, which
Okay.
was the Presage mission, which was all about Callus
Hmm.
basically falling to the Savathun trickery and the using the helm or the crown of sorrow, sorry,
Hmm.
the crown of
Hmm.
sorrow, and then becoming his gelatinous blob in his sarcophagus,
Hmm.
and this is his new form. Which whenever
Well,
that
he
had
was the
happened,
blob before the crown.
exactly,
Okay.
it had happened when it had happened, but we had learned it had happened in the Chosen, and so this idea that Savathun way back then was somehow uh, involved with that kind of makes you think, okay, so Kaido learning about it and knowing I'm not going to go down that road,
Hmm.
and now she's here aligned with us
Hmm.
because she respects us now for fighting so hard against her, I guess. And now we have the Fallen in Mithrak. Um, so that's pretty much okay. So there's that's pretty much it. I mean, because the
Yeah.
only other entities that could potentially be on a side would be they don't have the capacity of being aligned with Guardian. So we've got Cabal and Fallen and Guardians, and then you've got Vex, Hive, and whatever the hell the darkness is, which would be like darkness are anti Guardians, right? Because they're basically the central form that helps combine the other two lessers, right? If you
Hmm.
think about us as being better than everyone, I'm just trying to put it in a nice little package. Like, how could that possibly, happen?
Yeah.
The Vex don't have any, the Vex are a hive mind structure almost, and then the Hive are almost a hive mind structure of sorts. And but they're both being driven by the darkness we know.
Hmm. Well, not all of the Vex though.
Well, you know what I mean, though. Like
Yeah.
the Vex were a part of the reason why Exos happened, and so there's like a back channel for Savathun to possibly be incorporated in that whole entire theme.
Hmm. Yeah, I get you.
So now you've got so now you've got three against three,
Yeah.
somewhat. And we know there are bad guardians out there that aren't even a part of the vanguard. So like even in our own race, there are defectors or defectors or you know bad
Yeah, I
guys
mean, Drifter,
that
for
like
example,
yeah
he's clearly not on our side.
yeah. God, dude.
And so speaking of the Drifter, have you seen the SMG from this season called Borrowed Time?
Yes, and I love the whole story about it, and I keep referencing it, and I wish people would listen to me.
Borrowed Time is a good one. Uh, so Borrowed Time is an SMG here. It's on screen, and I guess this is the new seasonal Gambit drop because like last season we got the hand cannon and the fusion rifle, right?
Yeah, hand cannon was a good one.
And that was the one that everyone was going for. And so this season we have this SMG, and it's an interesting one because now the Elixir are in the city. Drifter's sitting down at a bar or whatever, and Elixir can just come into the bar easily. He doesn't have to actually leave the city to be hanging out with Elixir now. And so he's talking to the Elixir, and uh, there's a fight going on in the background, and you have this scenario where he asks the Elixir if they had ever eaten children. And so it's right here. Drifter leaned in closer, his voice gravelly. Nasty rumor even says you guys chomped on the occasional toddler. The Elixir pushed his chair back and lunged to his feet as the crowd gasped. Drifter stood his ground, somehow staring down the Elixir that was a full meter taller than him. Never the young, the Elixir boomed. Never. Drifter nodded. But the rest? And so it goes on to talk about how Elixir were hungry and they don't hunt down children. They're not monsters, but when they did kill a guardian,
Yeah,
meat is
they
meat,
did.
right?
Yeah, meat is what he said. Yeah. Well, okay, so you should read it right there in that part because that's a good like a little back and forth.
Oh,
So he says,
yeah, go for it.
okay, so so when the big elixir spoke part right here, he
Yeah.
says his voice was deep and steady. We had confusions with your people. We were self-supply, and we was all supply. He shrugged. It's kind of like a Viking speaking. He
Hmm.
said, "We learned and we compensated." And then Drifter nodded. Makes sense for settling in a new place. Ain't a soul here who hasn't checked their neighbor's tool shed for spare SMG parts. And then a voice spoke, "Hey, I'm missing an SMG." But the Drifter held up a hand.
Yeah.
He's like, "Shut up." He's like, "Don't talk back there." And then so he goes, "I don't want to hear they caught any blame for the big night. I swear, it's like some folks' brains just wilt in the dark. I know Mithrax is working with the Vanguard to figure out this whole Vex thing," he said. The Lixney seemed to relax a bit, but Drifter held up a finger. "I do have one question of my own," he said. "We've been fighting for a long time." This is my horrible Drifter accent, by the way. "Your folk and mine. That's no secret. Plenty of blood spilled on both sides over the years. But I hear some stories of you fellows from the old days caught the hunger,
Yeah.
right?" Okay, so the big Elixni shifted tensely in his seat as the crowd presses in, and Drifter leaned in closer, his voice gravelly.
Yeah.
"Nasty rumor even says you guys chomped on the occasional toddler." And so this is when the Alexei jumps up basically out of his chair and the crowd gasps and Drifter stood his ground and stared him down. And then the Alexei says, "Never you're young." The Alexei boomed, "Never." Drifter nodded. "But the rest?" You can just feel it, right? The tension in the room. Everybody's waiting for a
Yeah.
big brawl. So the Alexei looked at the crowd, then brought his massive head close to Drifter. His voice was steady. "We old ones, we who have been fighting since the beginning. Yes, we sometimes took your dead fighters so we could live. It was war," he said, and poked the Drifter in the chest, basically with the clawed finger. "And you're made of meat." Drifter smiled. "I hear you, brother," he said, and looked at the Glixie's claw. "Hell, you point that thing at me. All I can think is how good it would taste with garlic butter. Mmm." He leaned toward the looming creature and ran his tongue over his chapped lips. The Lixney sized up the tiny man, then dropped his shoulders. "But as I say, that was long ago. We are house light now, and forevermore we have peace with your people." So Drifter reached up and patted the Elixni's chest. "That's right," he said, and the Elixni sat down. "And though it don't erase the bad old days," he said as he turned to the crowd, "that don't mean it's time to bring them back." And so he's basically diffusing the crowd as,
Hmm.
the crowd was there. So you got to wonder, like, what was the Drifter's intent in this whole entire situation? Because he knows he's got this bar room full of people that are just freaked out by this Elixir's presence sitting there. And so the Drifter goes over there and makes a scene to kind of settle everybody down.
Hmm.
So he's got an agenda. And so this is the part that tripped me out. So he says, he says, this satisfied grumble rose from the crowd because there's no fight going to happen now, right?
Hmm.
The Elixni shrugged. Misrax says, Misrax says we are never to eat people again. He says quietly. Drifter nodded. "Yeah, Zavala tells me the same damn thing." "What?"
Yeah. I remember when what was it? So when season of the Outlaw, season of the Forge, season of the Drifter, and it was like in season of the Forge, we were starting to get like some more Drifter quotes and things because he had just come the season before in season of the Outlaw and Forsaken, and I was like, does Drifter eat people? And like before it was just like, yes, he eats
Yes,
literally
he eats
everything.
literally eats whatever he can eat.
Yeah. And I was just like, Drifter's a cannibal?
He's a
I'm not comfortable with that. Like
he's an insatiable he's just an insatiable guardian who will just eat anything that he can eat. He
mhm.
doesn't care. Dude was wearing hive chitin.
I mean, I think we all do. So I wanted to comment. You said this is your terrible drifter impersonation. Your terrible drifter
Yeah.
impersonation. This sounds like you.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how to pronounce that name, but someone in chat said, "Why does Rhino's Elixir impression sound like a German Yoda?" And you didn't keep up with it either. I was really
Uh,
hoping you would.
I I was having too much fun, getting wrapped up in my own self.
Yeah.
Dude, the I can't imagine, like I can't imagine what the voice actors have to go through when they do the Elixir voices because there's so many clicks and pauses and,
Did they do
uh
it themselves, or do you think that's like added? Are they just like, okay, like pause for clicking?
no, they showed, the voice actor for Varix, and
Oh, really?
he did all of that in his voice, most of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that they adjust it like
Sure.
to get it to the right tone and pitch and everything. But like
Yeah.
he actually does the clicking. That is surprising. I would not have expected that.
I can't. Well, okay. Just to finish off the dumb lore entry. So the Elixir burst into coughing laughter. The Drifter laughed back, picked up his gun from the table, and waved the crowd away as he pulled over an empty seat. Now make some room, he said. These fellows were just about to lose at cards. So he's going to sit there and play cards with the fallen,
I mean,
But
like that's nice, but like it's kind of crazy that like that's what he does. It's like like how you said, everyone's like expecting this big fight to break out, and they're gasping. They're really intent on the conversation, and basically they just talk about eating people. They're just like
yeah,
both like, man, I wish we could still eat people. Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? And then everyone's just like, okay, well, I don't really want to fight anymore. And then Drifter's just like pointing gun, and
yeah.
everyone like, now get the fuck away from me.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it's a great scene because it shows a lot of things. One, it shows Drifter's methodology on how to break the tension in a room by just being the Drifter,
Yeah.
because he recognizes and knows, hey, we have to be allies with the Fallen. So to keep people from screwing things up for himself, because he's only interested in his own crap, he's going to go in there and basically shout at the elephant sitting in the room, literally, and kind
Mhm.
of point out the big thing that everybody's so pissed off about,
Mhm.
and make it so where everybody has to be face to face with the thing that they're all mad about and get over it real quick, because drifter's got some drifter's got some drifter to be doing, real soon. So he's got something he wants. And so that's what I think the undercurrent of this lore entry is saying, because Drifter's going to sit down and play cards with them. He wants something.
Yeah,
He's up to something.
he's bridging a gap. He's definitely he's got an agenda, whatever that
Yeah.
is, and I'm
There's
sure we'll
another
find out
really good
eventually.
there's another really good lore entry in there too. And so like this whole season is basically trying to show that the fallen are okay. And so there's a lot of stories that have popped up in this season about the fallen trying to fit in.
Mhm.
And so that's what Bungie is trying to do right now, is give you kind of a backstory to the fallen and make you feel a little bit more empathy and compassion to their, you know, to their thing, to what they are. I mean,
Okay.
there's a good story in here about fallen trying to eat ramen at a ramen shop.
That's one of the ones I have here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't get much. I didn't sleep well last night. Do you want to talk about that fallen ramen shop one, because that's actually not where it begins?
You go where you want to go next. I'm down. Either
Okay.
way.
So, like I said, we were going to try to avoid talking about books, but this first entry here, from Beneath the Endless Night, entry 3, Gifts from the Shore, it is an entry following Amanda and Saint 14 as they're receiving packages from an elixir. And so it's like this little dreg. from the House of Light, and he has a badge on his chest that's a lanyard on his chest that reads temporary. And so he's bringing in this package, and it's just got a whole bunch of like random things, but they're like super valuable, like old world elixir, like Reese things, like things that are like lost to time.
Yeah, yeah.
And Spider just gave it to them, and they're just like, why the hell would Spider do that? And they're looking at this list, and it's like all these things that no one even knows what they are. Like that's how old they are. And then the list also doesn't seem to know what they are either. It just kind of talks about them vaguely. It's like, yeah, this is valuable. Uh Look at this listing, Amanda continued. This item says best osmosis filters hidden in his bottom drawer. This item is just a row of question marks. Here's one listed as a clock thing. This line says noisy cube smells bad but everybody likes it. And what's with this signature? And so Amanda squinted at the shape scrawled at the bottom of the form. It's a ship, she guessed, handing the paper to Saint. The Titan turned his head and he looked at the drawing. Aha, he cried, slapped the paper with the back of his hand. Look, is bird. Amanda looked again at the uneven charcoal lines and could make out the wobbly black bird. She let out a long breath and shook her head. Awful artist, she said, but I guess he's an all right guy. And suddenly she was smiling. So you have this
Right.
dreg. This is the important bit here. You have this dreg who has the lanyard that reads temporary, and the dreg is like, isn't Spider such a great guy? Do all humans here serve Spider Kel? And Amanda goes, serve Spider. Spider's nothing but a. And the five spirited words that followed were replete with hard consonants. And so those are the two takeaways there that clue you in to how this story continues, which is the ramen shop one that you mentioned from the what is that, scout rifle,
Yeah.
Chroma Rush. And
No, that's an
so
auto rifle.
that's an auto rifle. I can never these weapons, man. They like their
No, man,
designs
they
are
look
really
so good.
good because I don't know what the hell they are when I look
Yeah,
at them.
yeah.
Where do the bullets even go in this? Like, how do you reload that?
Dude, it's freaking digital wires. That's all it is.
Oh my god.
Digital
I gotta
bullets
get
just
these.
come from nowhere.
I haven't gotten a single like interesting weapon yet. I just,
The magazine downloads bullets and then
makes sense.
streams them across the chain.
You wouldn't download a magazine. Uh but
NFT
so
bullets.
then going on to the ramen shop. So this is the same elixir, and we learn that because of how this story ends. And basically, the dreg goes into the ramen shop and says, "One item ramen soup." The elixir croaked stiltedly, "Please." And so the ramen shop guy is like about it because it's like, here's this elixir where humans are, we don't get along, and everyone's like staring at the situation unfold because the elixir's just a good guy, he's not doing anything wrong. He just wants some ramen. He's like, it smells delicious. Why wouldn't I want some? And the shop owner's like, how spicy? 0 to 5 stars. And the elixir says, spicy, 5 stars, holding up one hand with 3 claws splayed and the other and another with two. And he
Dude.
goes, may I receive additional dead flesh, please? Which it's like,
She wants some more pork belly.
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong in what you're asking for, but if I was in this case, the guy's name is Maurice. If I was Maurice, I'd be like, yes, but for future reference, you can call it pork. So no one is freaking out when you
Yeah.
ask for
He
dead
doesn't want to
flesh.
correct him though, because he's an elixir and he's
Like,
probably a little bit afraid.
but it's like that's just like, hey, listen, man, I appreciate that you're trying to learn a language, but the word you're looking for is pork, right?
Yeah, not dead fish.
Not dead flesh. Like just help him out. Help him out a little. He's a good guy. He just wants some ramen. You can't be mad at someone for just wanting ramen. But
Um,
he orders his ramen with extra dead flesh, very spicy, and he's handed the bowl, he's handed the spoon, he's handed the chopsticks, and he asks what is the protocol, and Maurice like kind of mimes using the chopsticks to eat the noodles and the pork and the egg, and then to use the spoon to drink the broth. And he goes, or you could just drink the broth from the bowl itself, and he like mimes picking it up. And so the Elixir basically just is like, I can't figure out chopsticks. I'm just gonna take this fucking bowl, and he just starts drinking the ramen down. Which that's how he's got to do it. That's how he's got to do it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna judge him on that. And it comes
Well,
to this. Sorry.
sorry, I was just gonna say the funny thing in there is he says, um, he says, "Well, you eat the noodles and the pork and egg with," and then the elixir says egg and says, and he enjoyed the unfamiliar word. So, and he goes, "Yeah, egg. You eat all that with the
Yeah.
chopstick."
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, because he'd never heard the word egg before, so it's like, yes, new word,
Huh?
egg. I like it.
Yeah.
And so he just gulps it down. And finally, the elixir lowered the empty bowl. It breathed in as the blue mist resumed its thin spray. It looked toward Maurice. I tasted all of it, it said with deep satisfaction. I am very thankful. Maurice's grin turned into a tentative smile. Glad you enjoyed it. The elixir stood up and held out what looked like a small model of the traveler. It glowed as it floated in the elixir's palm. Compensation, it said. Maurice reached to take the treasure, then drew his hand back and said, he says, "For new customers, there is no charge." He said, "No compensation. Thank you for coming in," which is nice. Obviously he's saying
Yeah,
that
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's like that's not money, but it's
Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
It's nice that
He's like,
he's
"Oh, what
like,
do you got there to pay me with?" Yeah, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's free.
yeah. And so the elixir cocked its head, then clucked, and the model vanished beneath the folds of its cloak. It smiled at Maurice, and he goes, "You," it said, then cleared its throat with a rumble. And so, as I mentioned in the last entry, uh, it said that Spider Kel was very kind, and Amanda responded with five spirited words
Weird birds.
that were
Yeah.
replete with hard consonants. And when he's like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "Oh, it means he's very kind." So she just sent this drag out with
Just
swear
saying.
words
Yeah.
meaning very
Yeah.
kind. And so
Uh,
it says URA, and the five spirited words that followed were replete with hard consonants. In the confused silence that followed, the elixir nodded graciously, then walked through the crowd outside and deeper into the city. And I really wish that was the end of the story.
nope.
But it isn't, because it's not a good story. It's a very sad story.
Yeah.
And
But it's kind of funny.
I how can you laugh at the end of this?
I know, but it's still kind of funny. I hate
So
I like tragedy and comedy wrapped together because it's kind of like
yeah, I mean I do
the
too, but this is too
it makes
much.
the humor much funnier though. Like you know this is not going to end well for the guy or whatever. And
It
then
could end well right there, and everyone could just be like, "That was weird." That could have been the tragedy and the comedy. The tragedy being he just swore at this ramen shop
yeah,
guy, but
yeah.
they took it farther. Like, I think the best balance was that previous one where Drifter's basically like, "Yeah, I used to eat people too," but Zavala says, "I can't." Like, that's the perfect balance. This is just depressing. How
Mm.
this ends. But so the third piece here, and I've looked, I cannot find anything that sounds like it completes or continues the story, but it is left open ended. So it isn't the end. We can get more, we just don't seem to have more. It comes from Shattered Cipher, which is a machine gun. These you can still tell very clearly what they are.
Yeah.
And basically, it is. Sorry, I had something in my throat there. A child is coming home, and she's notices a broken windows and abandoned building. Checked her data pad coordinates again. She'd never been to this corner of the city before, and she's like calling out for her mom. And she notices like in the room, it smells like chemicals. There's a plastic tarp. There's duffel bags on the table. There's a signal jammer blinking orange. An EXO is waist deep in rebar lined fracture in the floor. And he says, tight fit, he grunted as he wriggled in his way deeper into the gap. But I'm guessing he didn't get far. I'll find him. He vanished into the hole. What's going on? Helena asked. Don't ask questions, her mother said as she struggled to a damp strand of blonde hair out of her face. We need to get moving, she nodded toward the far corner of the room. You take that pile. Helena crossed her arms warily. Mom, what are you doing out here? I don't have time to talk about this now, her mother snapped. You don't know what's going on. You didn't see them looking through the windows. You didn't hear what this one said in the ramen shop. For the first time, her mother looked up. Dangerous intensity burned in her eyes. They're using the dark to blind us. We're not going to let it happen. Now help me. Helena walked slowly to the trash pile in the corner. Towels soaked with blue fluid, rubbery tubes, strange scraps of metal. A laminated card that read temporary. Her voice was small. Mama, what did you do?
Yep.
That's very upsetting.
Yep. Well, and okay, so and I hate to say it, but like the the climate and the tension around the world at this
Hmm.
given point in time is, inspiration for a lot of the stories that happen
Yeah.
in game. And so it's just a nice way to say, at the root of all of the conflict and disagreement and people not having, basic understanding of one another, shit happens. And people go off the rails because they're running around with misinformation about one another and popping shots at each other when probably should just take a few seconds to get to know one another.
It
And
makes me
so this is
wonder. It makes me wonder if Helena's mother is actually like a part of the future war cult, because it sounds like they were blaming the Elixir for the night, whereas the Elixir are there to fix the eternal night. They're not the cause of it, you know?
yeah. Well, that's, back up to borrowed time. That's like the very beginning of that whole thing was, oh yeah, we didn't do this, guys. They're not the reason. The
Yeah.
elixir didn't make the nightfall happen. But that's what everybody's kind of assuming is because, oh, the elixir are here and it's, permanent night, so it must be them, right?
Hmm.
Because not everybody out there has the full picture, the picture, and they're not really informed yet. So so unfortunately, bad stuff happens because people are thinking things that aren't true, which could be foreshadowing for Lakshmi, unfortunately.
Mm.
But yeah, that's something. So all the future war cult weapons that are showing back up have lore entries now, or a lot of them do.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
all the
that's
like many of the reprised weapons have that, and I really hope that's a theme that continues, because it's like it might be Future War Cult this season, but maybe next season's Dead Orbit or New Monarchy, and then we can get
Mhm.
even more on them.
So like something that stuck out to me is when the spider didn't think a lot of those artifacts and old trinkets were worth anything. But also Spider, way back when in Forsaken, had the lore entry about how he appreciates and values art and things from our past more than anything else. Like he is obsessed with our culture and stuff. And like he has what are the three paintings? He has Starry Night,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and he has the Mona Lisa, and he has what took me a while to figure out, but it's what is her name? Uh, I can't remember the artist. Anyways, it's the famous art with the cow skull that looks like it's hovering over what he calls waterfalls, which is not really waterfalls. It's just the background is blue and it
Hmm.
looks like waterfalls. But yeah, so he has this deep appreciation for our art and culture and what makes us humans, and he's obsessed with that. But he kind of like he doesn't value his own stuff really.
How old do you think Spider is?
I don't know. Like, do you think he was born in a time that was after the collapse?
Well, I mean, like, I think it would be interesting, given a book that we'll talk about soon, I'm sure. Achilles weaves a cocoon. I think it would be interesting to learn that Spider was a part of the House of Wolves. We know that. And wolves were on Reese. They were like an original house. I don't know if we have any. I think Dusk was the first newly created house that we can confirm. Uh, Dusk and Light and Salvation. So I mean, there's potential that Spider is was there for the whirlwind, and I think it would be interesting to learn that he saw the actions of Elixni like the one from Achilles weaves a cocoon and is like, wow, I don't like this system.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he could be like rejecting his early fallen philosophies and trying to adopt the newer ones, which would
Yeah,
be
and that's why he appreciates Earth culture. He's like, "Yep, I like this place more. I like their culture more. I like everything about this more. I can be who I want in the reef."
yeah. Plus, he's also kind of a traitor in war, so he's grown up with that kind of like that I've got to adapt to survive. I've got to take whatever I can use and turn it into currency to
Mm.
get what I want. And so he's kind of gotten this situation because he was the first. They were the first fallen allies for us game
Hmm.
technically.
Yeah.
Which another thing that always kind of with another thing that was always really cool back in the Forsaken campaign is when we first saw those fallen guys with the big spikes on their heads.
Hmm.
I immediately recognized their faceplates were the same as Saint 14's helmet, and I thought, well, back then I was like, well, which came first? Was it Saint 14 got that plate from a fallen he headbutted and put it on his own helmet, or
Huh.
was it they are trying to look like Saint but in a spiky way?
Well, I mean, it would make sense if they wanted to look like Saint because there is graffiti in the style of Saint 14 that
As we
like
just got,
that's a part of like a like fallen culture now. It's like that
yeah.
it wards off evil, things like that. Like it's an imposing figure. And so I mean, I could absolutely see Spider using that to his advantage.
Yeah, so the newest lore teaches us how they were telling the fallen babies their
Yeah.
bedtime stories about Saint 14. Oh man.
All right. Well, I think we have time for one more entry that we can go through. Do you have any particular standout favorites?
Uh I mean, I really just like them all and I could do
Yeah.
this all day, but no, I mean, I would rather give the floor to you. You could pick out the ones you like the most.
Okay.
I just really like that all the future war cults got lore entries now though. That's
It's
probably
always
my favorite.
exciting to see like old weapons come back, but they come back with lore because then it's like I don't even care. Like I'm just so excited now. We have lore now. This is amazing.
Well,
Like,
it even gives their original naming and architecture
hmm.
a little bit more uh, like purpose, like what they meant a little bit more can now be ascribed to a new world, a new relationship that that is evolved. Like just
Hmm.
for instance, like the one you were talking about, deicide, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if you think about that and apply it to to the story that's happening now, and then another one like stochastic variable, which
Hmm.
at the time was just kind of like the explanation for trying to trying to prove a theory with basic random randomness. And if you think about a SMG and how you just randomly shoot it what's in front of you hoping you hit the target eventually.
Is that
It
how you
was
use
funny.
SMGs? I usually
Yeah.
aim them. I don't randomly shoot them.
Well, the kick on that gun is so bad
Is it?
you really couldn't control where the bullets were going.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was like a
I
900 RPM, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was horrible. It might be better now. I think you
Yeah.
can get it with that old phase correction perk or
Mm.
whatever it's called, where it shoots slower and harder.
Well, let me ask you, before we get into our next entry, were you a fan of the Crow and Amanda ship? And I mean by ship I mean the lesser known relationship usage of that word.
See, I'm glad you defined that because anytime somebody says ship, my immediate thought is like a ship. that you fly in the game,
Mm,
and so I could never think about relationships
yeah.
first. But yeah, so in
Yeah,
the chosen,
I actually
and
just
the
learned that ship can be used in that way because in my experience, it's much more common that when you say I would ship them using two people, it's
uh,
it's proposing the idea of two people playing a game of battleships. And so it was
uh,
like mind blown for me when I was saying I'd ship them, and people were like, "Really? Those two have no chemistry?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but they'd be great in battleships. Like, what are you talking about? What does it matter? What does their
great.
chemistry matter?" Like,
Yeah, it's great. Well,
so
in the chosen, there was dialogue, and
yeah,
it's Crow and Amanda speaking at the end of one of the lines, and it's like, "Oh, Crow is like, you want to get a drink at the end of it all," and
yeah.
there's radio silence. But basically, you can hear it in Amanda's voice before that. Yeah, we should probably go get a drink together somewhere eventually.
Mhm.
Um, so
I mean, I like them together. I think I like seeing Amanda getting more screen time and everything, and I like Crow, and I think he's neat. And it is kind of silly because it's almost like, oh yes, the first girl you talk to, you're just gonna be like, yeah, let's go out.
uh,
Unless you play as a girl. I don't play as a girl. I play as a male. So uh, I guess technically his first consistent talking to partner is dependent on how the character plays. But either way, uh,
well,
there's a new
okay,
entry. Sorry.
but real quick, just to kind of set this up. So we've heard Amanda say some pretty borderline judgmental things in the chosen, right? When she's having dialogue with other people, where she's basically like, I wouldn't let them get near me or my house or my people, or she's kind of like got this whole. And then you hear the Crow with this opposite line of
Hmm.
dialogue where it's kind of like, well, if you've never sat with them, you don't understand their stories and stuff like that. And so it's kind of like two, like, opposites attract is what
Hmm.
I'm gonna say.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like you got one guy who's like trying to be like, hey, they're gonna be okay. You just got to get to know them. And then you got Amanda over here like, nah, forget that. They're bad.
And then, as I said in that entry before, where Crow sent everything. I mean, Crow being Aldrin is pretty common knowledge now, right?
Right.
Like, do you think it's everyone knows it, or do you think Zavala is still keeping it under wraps?
I'm pretty much gonna say that everybody knows it at this point. I don't think news is very slow
Yeah,
in the universe.
because I know he's laying low. He's told like just lay low, and it sounds like you only tell someone to lay low if everyone's like Crow's Aldrin, right? Like it doesn't make
Right.
sense
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah.
But so at the end of that entry, she's like, he might not be a good artist, but he's an all right guy because he just stole a whole bunch of crap from Spider and sent it as a shipment from Spider to go unnoticed and to like try to help the Elixni transition to living in the city. So it's like even though he was Aldrin in his past life, Amanda's like, yeah, he's not Aldrin now though. He is Crow now, and she's like understanding that. And so I do like them together. But there's a new entry on a Sparrow called Reese Racer, and I don't. I like this ship again relationship. This ship much more. Also battleship. Both senses of the word ship. I like this more than Amanda and Crow. And so Amanda Holiday is working on a Sparrow, and working with her or next to her is an Elixni engineer called Neek. And so Neek is a vandal, and they're just like kind of working side by side and like talking about how Neek says how like or Amanda says how Neek is more accurate or better at welding because she has four hands, and Neek's like, yeah, we have better eyes too, so we're making more precise.
Which
We
nobody's wearing protective gear still to this day, not even the
No,
Fawn, when
they're
they're
not.
welding.
I mean, maybe well, they're arc welders, right? Maybe that's different. Maybe you don't need protective gear like you
Yeah.
did.
It
Rubbing her cheek as a spark bounced off of it. Okay, never mind. Wear fucking glasses. You're gonna go blind. No, Amanda
Remember?
has goggles, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, but she wears them around her neck.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, either way. And
Yeah, why does she
apparently,
have goggles? Why is she the only one? I never thought about that. Why is she the only one that has goggles, and then she wears them around the neck?
hmm.
Everybody else gets that tiny little Game Boy screen in front of their little handheld welding machine to protect them.
Yeah. But so she's like, I always wondered how you all built stuff so fast. And the Elixir engineer Neek winked 3 eyes in Amanda's direction before returning her attention to the welding work. Easy to see too. No eye shields, meaning eyelids. Uh,
Oh,
no eye shields. Neek explained with a smile. Wait, no eye shields, meaning no eyelids. That doesn't make sense. How would you wink without eyelids? So maybe
point.
you're. Is that what you meant by they're not wearing protective equipment?
Yeah,
So yeah, you're right then, because they don't have to wear goggles. Amanda does. Elixir don't. Elixir eye is quick, better than human, then quieter, not as much as before home, but. And so Amanda's like actually bonding with Neek here, and she's like, "What do you mean?" And Neek says, "Story lives greater than now true selves." Neek explained, then looked sidelong at Amanda. We all lost purpose after Neek carefully considered the proper human words our golden age. So Neek saying before the whirlwind, the Elixir used to be even better at like everything they did,
yeah,
because it just kind of knocked them down. And it was Amanda's turn to sigh, more so in regret than Neek's sigh of patience. You ever ridden a sparrow before? She asked in an attempt to change the tone of the conversation. She hadn't considered the question before asking it, and Neek shook her head and focused her attention on the half-finished machine in front of her. Too small, she said with a shrug of her upper shoulders. Pike's stronger, but run quick. Amanda couldn't help but laugh at that. Darlin', she said through the laughter, ain't no pike faster than my sparrow. Neek's eyes lit up. She sat forward and at the perceived challenge. Amanda remembered the last radio conversation she had with Crow, an Elixir phrase he used, a friendly challenge. Her pronunciation was not quite right, but the information was. Neek delighted at the interaction. Your boasts are hollow hull, Neek said with a growl of laughter and clambered up onto one knee. Amanda's eyes widened for just a moment when it looked like Neek was going to pounce on her, as if she had somehow said the wrong phrase or challenged the vandal to a duel. No weapons were drawn, however. Instead, Neek offered 2 hands to help Amanda up from the floor. She was pulled up with ease. Are we gonna race? She asked with nervous flutter of laughter and a crooked smile. Neek nodded enthusiastically. Yes, race. Like, there is much more tension in this relationship than everything between Amanda and Crow.
yeah,
Like, this is just like blatant that they have a thing for each other, or that a thing for each other is growing.
yeah. And I would probably hesitate to say like she's get down and nasty, but like,
I mean, it seemed like that was going to happen there.
well, I'm probably gonna say like, okay, maybe there's like a limit to how much can go on between the two, and she probably recognizes that. But
Well,
the
I mean,
under,
Saint and Osiris are together, yeah.
yeah, but they're like the same. I
No,
mean, yeah, I
Exodus.
guess you're right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, unless something changes anatomically,
They can have a romantic relationship
yeah, that's about the extent of that, right?
potentially.
Or just race each other and get off on added satisfaction, maybe.
Yeah. They can have whatever type of relationship they want, but it definitely seems like they're gonna have a relationship.
Yeah,
And
the
it almost
yeah,
feels like there's gonna be like a love triangle sub story here between Crow and Neek fighting for Amanda, which is like such a weird turn for Destiny to take.
they could race for her honor, and then SRL happens.
That's how SRL comes back. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah.
who the hell are they? The SRL guys.
Oh, Marcus Wren.
Marcus Wren and there's the other one. both of them end up racing for Amanda as well. Not because they actually have any interest in Amanda, it's because they see a race going on. They just further complicate things for the sake of racing.
Yeah. The sparrow is pretty cool though. It's all fallen looking.
Yeah, it's an interesting looking sparrow. But
Feels
I tweeted after I read readed wow after I read the three entries before of what happened to the light drek. Um, it's kind of Amanda's fault because she said some swear words and they were like, "What does that mean?" Instead of saying,
yeah.
"Don't worry about it" or anything like that, she's like, "It
Yeah.
means very nice person," and so they
Yeah.
she sent them out with that knowledge, and I tweeted, "Amanda, no," and I forget who responded, but they were like, "Is this about that Amanda Elixir relationship entry? Because if so, like you're wrong or something like that." And I was like, the what entry? Like I had not seen this yet,
Yeah.
and I went and found it, and I really like them together. I think they have more chemistry than her and Crow. Because it's kind of
Well,
like how you said it's opposites attract or similarities attract. You know, they're both engineers and they're both going to have a racing affiliation after this entry.
yeah. So she could get to know Reese a little bit better, and then they'd have
Neek.
like this common Neek. I'm sorry, Neek a little bit better, and they could have this common thing. Wait, did Neek was that a name that was dropped way back when, or am I thinking of something else? Anyway,
Reese is
I know Reese is
Neek is only in this one entry.
okay.
I thought it was Nick. I'm not sure if it's Nick or Neek. I call it Neek because I call it Reese. I don't call it Riss. So I
Right.
assume the double I pronunciation carries through.
Yeah, I was thinking that's why that's there too. Neek. Neek.
And also, if you do call her Neek, then you can make their couple name Amandique, because if you were to call her Nick, it is probably not a relationship name that you want.
Oh, it's perfect. Oh, it doesn't have to be a man, you know. Yeah, any.
So Vault of Glass is next week, isn't it? The 25th.
Is it?
I believe it is. So our next show is going to be on the 30th. It's going to be after Vault of Glass. I'm gonna try to get in Vault of Glass on the Saturday. Usually, I can get my clan together. We can get raids going and stuff like over the weekend.
Yeah.
So maybe there'll be something new. Maybe there'll be new lore on
Well, there's
items.
definitely something new.
Because wait a second, Fatebringer is definitely coming back. I haven't seen Fatebringer on Ishtar.
So one of the items that's going to be dropping from Vault of Glass when it drops in its higher form, the flavor text chain. That I'm just putting that out there.
This Vault of Glass cache has a chance to award arms, chest, Fatebringer, Vision of Confluence, and Corrective Measure. This Vault of Glass
Corrective measure.
cache has a chance to reward legs, helmet, found verdict, Fatebringer, and Hezen Vengeance. So all those weapons don't have entries. And I can't imagine raid weapons coming in without entries. So maybe we hopefully we can get those entries. Either data mined or through Ishtar, and maybe next week we can talk about Vault of Glass.
I think so. Well, the what are the there's the higher version of Vault of Glass weapons that drop that will be
When
dropping
does the
next week.
heroic drop? I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Or was it not heroic? They did away with that. It's master now, I think.
Master, yeah. Grandmaster, right?
No, grandmaster's
Just the Nightfall.
different. I don't know. They have too many words.
Too many words and too many
It used
names.
it used to be so easy in Destiny 1. It was just like, yes, not only do I know uh the concept of whatever the answer is, but I know the exact grimoire card your answer lies in. And I was able to say, you're looking for this grimoire card of people when they had a question. And now people are like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know if I dreamt this or if this is real, but here's an answer. That's a hope.
Let's hope I'm right
Yeah. There's
somewhere.
there's like a 50% chance on this making shit up at this point now. I'm sorry.
Well, it's gonna be interesting, to say the least, because the last time we got some new stuff about any of that was way back in D1 in the Rise of Iron.
Hmm.
Was pretty much the last time we heard anything about this
We had
stuff
we
with
had Vault of Glass stuff in Rise of Iron. I thought the last time we went into the Vault of Glass was in House of Wolves.
we got no, we got the adept versions of
Oh yeah, but I mean Adept versions, those were the same. They didn't actually come with anything new.
True.
It's not like they came with added lore.
It's true.
That would be a different scenario. Because
Because
even the Adept
we got
Fatebringer
the
says,
weird
"But where is your fate, and who brings it to you?"
hmm, yeah, new
Hopefully,
stuff.
hopefully between the two of us, if we can both get into raids, and between the five other people in our raid team, we can get every weapons entry, and we can talk about it next week.
Yeah,
Our next,
technically it'll be out there
yeah,
for us to speak upon.
yeah. Our next show is going to be on the 30th. You're good with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the 30th, and we are going to potentially be talking about Vault of Glass. We will announce the topic on the Friday before the 28th. We'll try to announce it then to be sure, and it'll be at 9:15 a.m. on Sunday, like it always is. And if you want to find more of us, it's on the bottom now, so beneath me here. Loose Cannon Show at Loose Cannon Show on Twitter. Go there, and you can follow us for all that information. Anything else to say?
No, that's good. Keep it going.
All right. Bye, everybody.